So it took you about 8 or 9 years to work your way up from second assistant director to being a director on Nurse Jackie. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it took. I would say that. I would say in general, it took 8 or 9 years to go from a second assistant director to a first assistant director to then a director on Nurse Jackie.
Okay, so there were kind of 3 steps to it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's second assistant, then first assistant director, which gets you a lot closer to the producers, the showrunners, the other directors who go off to do other things. As a second assistant director, you're usually stuck doing a lot of the planning and a lot of the kind of paperwork, and all the every day kind of rests on your shoulders, and any little failure falls on it as well. So it's one of those thankless jobs that you do to get to the next level, be it a producer or a first assistant director. And I was a second assistant director for 1 year on Nurse Jackie, and then I first assistant directed that show for 4 years. Season 3, season 4. For 4 years, or maybe it was 3 years, and then on the 4th year, I asked for an episode. So I said, on that path, I said, I really wanted to be a director. I've always wanted to be a director, and I have to start doing something. I shot a short, and I did I shot and produced a short for like $3,000, and we did a small festival circuit, and I showed the producers of that show, hey, look at this. This is something I did. I would like to direct one day. Here we go. And then they, oh, this is great. Look how great this is. And then I let another year go by, and then I made a spec pilot, and we. I showed that to the showrunner of Nurse Jackie, and they were like, "This is great." And I said, at that point is where I kind of had to like put not the gauntlet down, but just go, look, I've been here for a long time, and I would really love to direct an episode, and if I can't, I don't know if I should be here, because if I'm not going to move up, then what am I doing? I hope nobody kills me when for saying that at Nurse Jackie, but that's sometimes you have to do that. You have to kind of say, hey, I really want a shot, and I know I'm a valuable tool for you in this one capacity, but just give me a shot to just do one more. It's just one episode. So I got that one episode. It was the second episode of the 6th season. And, I had such a great time. It was a big episode. They had such a good time. They really liked it. Edie Falco really liked me. I mean, I had known her, for quite some time at that point. But it was it was like really fun, and it was, they liked it, and, everybody went away like, great episode, good job. And I went right back to assistant directing. The 4th episode, I was the assistant director. And then just, by chance, halfway through the season, a producer came up to me and they said, do you want to do another episode? And I said, absolutely. And they go, there's a director who wants to get out of their contract. They're supposed to do episode 11. We think, she's asking, she's under contract to do it, but she's asking if we can cover her and get her out, and would you like to do it? And I was, of course. So I did that episode. It was the second to last episode of the season, and it went great. It was another great episode. It was a beautifully written episode by Liz Flahive, who's now the showrunner and creator of Glow. And the next, I eventually had to go get it. I went to the producers. I go, now what do I do? I was like, I want to do more of this. Now how do I do more? They go, oh, you have to go to L.A. and you have to meet like Showtime, and you have to meet the Lionsgate people, and you probably have to get an agent. And I go, okay, I'll do that. So I go out and I meet Showtime and I meet Lionsgate, and I get an agent. And I come back and I go back to ADing other TV shows at the time, and the producer calls me up and he said, how many episodes do you think you can do and still be the AD in 1 year? And I said, I think you're asking me the wrong question. I go, I know you like me as an AD, but if you like me as a director, you'll still get me as an AD. I will still, whatever good I brought as an AD in that capacity, thinking about the crew or thinking about, I'll still make sure that happens. And they called my agent that I had just gotten, and they said that they wanted me to do 6 of 12 of the final season, including the season premiere. So I guess I did something right, and that last season was like I lived in a dream for the whole season. I was constantly prepping and shooting episodes and editing and prepping and shooting and editing, and that's all I did for that last season. It was it was the best time I've had on set.
Is that something that's always been in your makeup, to be in one position but be preparing to maybe move up? Because it could be an easy thing to get stuck somewhere. Sorry.
It is very easy to get stuck in one spot, and I would say I let myself get stuck as an assistant director for probably too long. Mainly because, I joined the Directors Guild, the money was good, I had a young family, I was like, this is great, and there wasn't enough pushing me to go and chase this. I did move up fairly quickly through the DGA or in the assistant director path. And I've always told people, and I'm pretty sure someone said this to me, I tell people from when they're PAs that you always have to be ready to do, you always want to be good enough to do the person above you's job. And if, I say it when I hire anybody, it's like, you want to do enough so that if you want my job, not in a sneaky way, but you want to be, hey, I can help you do that. I can do this. Can I, let me do that for you. And I've had plenty of people who've worked underneath me, and especially in the assistant director kind of category, I've had plenty of assistant directors who have gone from a PA for me to a second for me to a second for me to a now first on another show. And I always say that to them. I'll be like, I'll let you do all the job, as long, but that's you have to kind of keep proving that you can do that job. There's a little bit of you that wants your job, that wants that job the whole time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, that you made it easy for them to see that you were ready for the next step, because you had the short, and then I think you said you did a spec. So it wasn't like you just went in there and pounded your fist and said, don't you see my worth? You also showed them with other things, it sounds like.
Yeah, you have to, it's not just like throwing your weight around. You have to do some of that as well. But yeah, I had something to show. I had something to put in front of them, something tangible that they could be like, okay, because it is it's a risk that everybody's taking, handing a director anything. It is a business. So when you're handed an episode of something, of kind of a major show, those can be between $4 to $12 million episodes. You're handing somebody for the first time, hey, you're now in charge, as much as you think you're in charge of this, and and people can really, you can screw that up. And that's where you separate yourself from the business, and you go, okay, I need to prove the investment, if that makes sense. I need to I need to give you something to take the leap, you know, that they can see like, okay, I think you can do that. And they even sent it to Showtime. They had to send it to Showtime to even get me approved, you know, like, look at this, he did this on his own. It looks professional. It's, you know, well done. And, you know, and that was that process.
How did you find the story for Centigrade, your movie? When you look it up online, I don't see an actual story of I see parts of stories that are like that. Is that something you pieced it together, or?
Yeah, so, I mean, the original script was written by a writer named Daley Nixon. And I found his script on a site called Inktip, which I've, you know, had a great success at finding things there and you know, finding writers that have never been discovered or been produced. And you know, I came across his log line. I read the script, and I was like just really, you know, captured by this story. And I did the same thing. I went and I started Googling the you know, the event and saying like, I can't find this event anywhere. I got on the phone with him. I was like, look, I love the script. You know, which story is it? And he said, I found this man, this Swedish man that, you know, is that what it is? And he said, yeah, that was based off of that story. And then that inspired, you know, the idea and the story, and then he added some other stories, and then me and him kind of talked. And the more that you know, as we went through like the optioning process, the more I did research on you know, people getting stuck in snow, people driving on the side of the roads, pulling over, getting stuck in snow. I just saw it everywhere. There's a film that was done, I think, there was a very famous story about a couple and their baby being stuck in the snow in 1989. I should look up that story before any of these interviews, but it turned into a kind of shoddy TV movie, but it was a couple that was stuck in the snow with their baby for, I don't know, 7 days or 3 days until they eventually, the husband walked off to try to get help. There was a story about a grandmother who was stuck on the side of the road for 10 days. There was a story about a woman who had to give birth in her car in the snow with her husband. So it just, you know, it seemed like there was just so many different stories that we could kind of put in as we kind of rewrote the script. I tried to put in a lot more of their kind of relationship and deal with that with him, with Daley. And, you know, the process of just kind of finding new, you know, taking this research and these stories and having, that's why we say inspired by actual events, because it's inspired by many different stories. It's like an amalgamation of different stories and research and survival experts and, you know, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. You know, I had a DP friend of mine that read this script and or one of the many versions of the script, and he mentioned in Montreal that when you rent a car or when you drive in the mountains, they tell you to keep a candle in your glove box because the heat of a candle will help warm the inside of a car if you get stuck. And so then I, you know, looked up, you know, these kind of packs, these survival packs that were in cars, and it was true. It was just such a, you know, it was like, okay, this is a great thing for them to have, and then what do you put in that car, and like, how do you do it? So it was really taking real stories, kind of meshing them all together, and, you know, doing the diligence of like research and going and you know, how your character should deal with this situation. That kind of got us to Centigrade.
So you found the script on Inktip, and then you went and revised it yourself and added different other elements to it?
Yeah, I did it. I mean, Daly and I passed the script back and forth. But yeah, that's how it went. I found it on Inktip. I optioned the script from him. We went back and forth on changes that I wanted to do. I wrote, scenes and changes that weren't in there. And that's pretty much how that went.
How long of a process was that? Once you found it on Inktip and you thought, you know what, this would be a great idea to do this, and I'll kind of mold it in my own way, or do it in one scene, one location for the most part. What was that process like? Like, how long did it take to actually get it to production from the time you saw it on Inktip?
Well, I wish I had an actual date for you. I want to say that this script took off faster. I was in the middle of pushing another script at the time. And I was in a meeting with a production company. And they go, and I was pushing this boxing film that me and my producing partner, Bradley Ross, who was also the editor on the film, we were pushing this project, and they go, nah, it's not really what we're looking for. Like, what else do you have? And we're like, well, we have this other movie that we just kind of started. It's about a married couple that's like stuck in their car in the snow, and they pull over during a snowstorm, and like the whole thing kind of takes place with them like stuck in their car. And they're like, that sounds great. Let's do that. And funny enough, that was not even the company we ended up working with. But we saw it kind of take its own inertia. Like, it slowly started to, like, we got it. I started the writing process back and forth, but as we were writing, we started to slowly kind of shop it around and get some interest. And we found Fife in Pictures, Molly Connors and Amanda Bowers, through a friend of mine, Vincent Morano, who eventually produced the movie with us. And they fell in love with it, and the film started to snowball once we, I hate using that term with this film, but once Molly and Amanda, and Vincent kind of came on with Brad and myself, they kind of, Molly was very great at kind of like pushing and saying like, well, let's just set a date to this. Like, can we do this now? Like, how quickly can we get this done? And I was like, well, the script is pretty much done. Like, let's move this I can move that forward fairly quickly. And she started to have me meet with actors and send the script out to people as they went out for financing. And I want to say that we met in like a March, and we shot in August. So it was pretty. That's from my experience, that's pretty fast. To go from like, maybe we got the script in February or January on Inktip, and to be in production by August is, I haven't been able to get anything else off the ground that fast. And it took on its own energy. We found the people who, we found the investors that wanted to do it. The producers kind of hit the ground, like raising the money. I was talking to actors, trying to feel actors out, see who would, be into like the kind of not so normal or not so usual ways that we wanted to shoot this. And we found, Vincent Piazza and Genesis Rodriguez Vincent was somebody that Molly Connors had already known. We had a great meeting, and they were completely on board, and probably a month or two after that, we were going into production.
Was any of the dialogue improv? Because I so believed that they were a couple, and I thought it was great how so much of their life was revealed in these like little problems, in terms of surviving in this car, and then other things kind of worked their way into the conversation. Was any of this improv?
Yes, a lot of it was improv. I mean, there was a script that Daly and I worked very hard on. And, we approached this film, we approached it, and when I talked to them, I said, look, there's 3 things I want to do to shoot this film. One is I want to shoot in order, so that I want to shoot the whole movie, from scene 1 to scene 70, whatever the last scene number was. And, chip away slowly at what it was. So the actors and I would walk in, to a scene, we'd read it, we'd rehearse it, we'd block it, and, I would tell them, like, look, if something else comes out, let's just let it come out. Let's see what happens. And sometimes we would be kind of, a portion through of the movie, and like the feeling would be different. We'd be like, after what we just did, I feel like it shouldn't be this way. Like maybe we can change it. And there was a lot of that happening. There was a lot of improv. The story didn't necessarily change, but like the kind of the rawness or the realness, and kind of like how like their performances kind of would come off as just, I adored both of them and think that they really kind of poured everything out onto the screen. And, but, as far as like the script supervisor, I remember him coming up to me, 1 or 2 times like, well, they're not really saying and I was like, it's fine, don't worry about it. Which is not always what you want as a writer. It's not always what you want, but like, there were, I feel like you have to let the actors make the material feel good for them. If it doesn't feel good in their mouth and doesn't like, feel perfect. I know there's a lot of directors and writer-directors that, will just stop and be like, no, start over. Like, that's not the word. Say the word this way. It's very purposeful. That's what it is. And I just felt like this wasn't that film. Like, we had such an opportunity to kind of build from the bottom floor all the way to the top and let everything happen so organically. That, I love allowing them to riff or add or, take away. I mean, there's probably less words in it in the movie than there was in the script.
Oh, that's interesting. Did you watch other films where it was one location just to kind of get a feel of how, like Tape or, films like that where
wow,
just basically one.
What was the one you just mentioned? Tape?
Oh, Tape. Yeah. Is that Richard Linklater or no?
Sure.
It's with Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke, and they're in a hotel room. And I think they're a couple.
Oh.
And they just argue back and forth, and it's great, and the tension escalates as well. And, it's just kind of like this pressure cooker situation.
I think that's one of the only ones I didn't watch. I watched like a lot of the survival kind of trap movies. I watched Buried. I watched, 127 Hours. I watched a lot of those. Adrift. I constantly was like watching that kind of film and really to see like, okay, what is working, what's not working, what. I have a not necessarily. I don't know if it's a good quality or a bad quality. If I see something that somebody's done, I don't want to do that. Like I'm always like, okay, well that's been done, so I don't want to do that. But at the same time, you get into this like, well, there's a reason why certain tropes work. like there's a reason why like everybody does this because it works. And I keep trying to tell myself like, okay, some of this stuff I should probably not just throw away because I don't want to like copy or repeat somebody else. But my business partner hates. When I say, oh well, he'll sometimes like not show me. He'll be like, don't watch this movie because I don't want you to not do this, like because this is great. Just do whatever it's kind of like what you've been saying. So,
and for the interior shots, how many hours a day were you doing a lot of these scenes? And did that help lend to some of the stress because it was so believable between the two actors?
Well, when on your last question, I didn't give you the other two things we did. So the one thing I asked them to do was I want to shoot the whole thing in order so that we can build. We took two cars, and if we're in a scene and somebody got mad and they broke something, we're like, okay, great, that's broken. Now we move forward. It's always broken. Go with the other car and just break it on that car. So it's always, we just we never went backwards. Second was I wanted to shoot the whole thing in a freezer. So we could see their breath, and so that they could be cold, which, the actors, when I first mentioned that to them, they were like, oh, that would be so amazing. They're like, how hard it is to act cold. Like, it just takes so much energy to act cold. And I was like, that won't be a problem. The third was I wanted them to diet, and I wanted to shoot 3 to 4 days a week. So usually on a film, especially an indie film, it's 5 to 6 days a week. My dream was to shoot 3 to 4 days a week so that his facial hair would grow, and the time that they spent in that car would reach, like, by the first day of shooting to the last day of shooting, it had been 24 days. We shot 13 days, but over the span of kind of 24 days, and they lost 15 to 20 pounds, and his beard grew in, because we're a small movie. I hate the way fake beards look, and it was just one of these things, like, keep it just natural and keep it, like, just stay in this moment and feel the hunger. And they didn't do anything unsafe as far as their diet, but it was just just to feel the difference, and to see that if you look from the very first shot of the movie to, like, the right before Genesis gets out of that car, her face is kind of completely different. So that was my. So to go back to, I'm trying to piece back to the question you asked, but, like, the hours we spent in the car is kind of just doubled by shooting in a freezer at 20 degrees. The first time that they walked into that freezer, they go, this is pretty cold. And I was like, yeah, it's cold.
But that's great that they were excited by that. And you're right. I did notice that there were physical changes in them, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I did say, the beard, and she continued to kind of, like, have a dirtier face. But physically, I noticed that they did change. I couldn't totally see why, but I felt that it was the stress or whatever it was. So that's great. I hadn't even thought it was a full, like, that now that you're saying that, it registers. How much of the story did you know right away, and how much did you work on to flesh out? So you see the script is there on Inktip, you decide to option it. Did it change in your mind of how the ending would be, or different parts, different little elements of their life?
The story, when I first got it, it was very tense, and it was very grabbing, and it was very, like, okay, I understand. Like, these are the two people, we're in this car, and they got to figure out how to stay alive or what to do. And, like, I was like, okay, I totally get it. And then one of the main things that I wanted to kind of put in there always was, like, okay, well, what is the relationship between these two people, and what is the stress? And I don't want to I don't want to say that Daly didn't have a lot of that there, but there was just little things that I thought we could add to kind of make their relationship a little realer. And there were moments, the moments that I thought, like, these are very authentic moments, like the candle, I have the only way for me to explain is, like, I have a spoiler that I'm going to say, and I don't know, I probably shouldn't say it out. The placenta. Nobody ever gives birth in a movie with, usually you give birth in a movie and it's like, here's the baby, and it's done. And we had we took out a bit of cord cutting, and there's a placenta, the placenta that's being birthed, and like none of that ever comes across in a film. It's usually just, oh, the baby's born, and then that's how babies are born. So there was authentic moments like that was something that I really wanted to kind of keep in and make real and organic. Like there's a bottle of water that was always in the script, and I remember like halfway through it where I just keep going past this bottle of water, and I was like, the bottle of water is not frozen. Why? How would the bottle of water not be frozen? And then everybody was like, oh yeah. I was like, how would you keep a bottle of water warm enough so that it doesn't like freeze? Like you're in a frozen car, like it's going to and they're like, oh my gosh, we've all been reading the script and they've been passing water back and forth. Yeah, how do they keep it warm? And I was just he put the ball of water inside of his chest to keep it warm. It was just little things like that I was just kind of very fixated on, making it feel real and authentic and organic,
Right, and I thought it was great in that here they are trapped in this situation. They don't know what the outcome will be, but then there's little reveals about their life that you can tell they feel almost like, what, so they can't escape the arguments that they're having and these little things that are revealing things about their relationship. And they're kind of stuck there to deal with it. And I just thought that was a really interesting part, aside from all the other sort of terrifying things, that it wasn't like they could go slam the door and go in another room. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't run away. You can't run away from the problem that's right there in front of you. It's funny. I was, I always said it's like taking a relationship and like putting it in a pressure cooker, just keep it in there until everything kind of boils out. And I found that every analogy was like always about like pressure cooker or an incubator, and I was like, what's the opposite of pressure, like an incubator? And they were like, it is a freezer. Like a freezer is the opposite. Like but to put people, put a relationship that obviously, that I don't even think it's obvious, I think this is what I always wanted with this couple is that they're anybody, and that might also be something that I tried to kind of adjust in the writing process, because I think maybe the first draft, the character of Matt was kind of a Boy Scout, or had this knowledge of things, from being a Boy Scout, and to me, I thought that was a little less interesting. Anybody can pull over during a snowstorm and say, let's just rest this out until it passes. And how does just kind of, the average person, somebody who doesn't have like the wilderness experience, somebody who's not the mountaineer, like climbing and gets stuck, someone who's not like, who's out of their element, this isn't like their world that they're not the surfer stuck in the rock. They're not the astronaut stuck in space. They're not, this isn't like where they kind of live their life, just to be kind of, to not be equipped with tools and how to kind of, an average couple kind of common sense or figure their way out of a situation. And at the same time, blame or like, why we're here because you did this, and point fingers because 6 days later you're like, well, I told you we shouldn't have done this. And I think it's very relatable as we've watched kind of couples watch this movie, that you kind of pick a side or pick a stance on what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, and what one person didn't do enough of, and whose fault it was that they're there. And I always found that very interesting with this film.
Do you have a writing routine?
So I have ADD, and I really need to have complete silence. I also love to live in chaos. So I have 3 children. I have a business that did commercials when I was writing this. I have a day job. I have tons of stuff going on. So what I try to do is I try to get up around 5 or 6 and start writing for a good 2 or 3 hours in the morning before the rest of the world wakes up and my phone starts to buzz or my kids wake up. And then I do the same thing at night. I will start again at 7 p.m. and work until about 12 or 1. And so that, it's really like I don't know how to turn the world off unless the world is usually asleep. So that's kind of my I mean that's how I find time to write. I guess it's not necessarily like my initial style. I'll take a with this was more of a rewrite, but if I'm writing something from scratch, it's like I'll take an idea, I'll try to write a scene. I'll take that scene and say, okay, now I have to how does this get to where it is? I usually, if I'm going into a script and saying, okay, I'm going to write this, into a movie, I usually kind of know how I want it, roughly how it's going to unfold or end. And I have something in either the middle or the beginning, and then it's like finding that journey, kind of gluing everything together. So I take those few hours that I'd have in the morning and a few hours that I'd have at the end of the day, and journey down those stories and do outlines. I try to do outlines. They don't necessarily always work for me. Sometimes just getting into scenes and writing them and writing more scenes and writing more scenes works. And throwing away, 60% of those scenes, 75% of those scenes that I've already written, all help me kind of find a character and what they are. I would say in the writing process, I probably only threw away 3 scenes written. My producer and editor partner will hate that. He's always like, we didn't cut any scenes from the film. And I'm like, yes, we did. We cut this. He was like, that's half a scene. I'm like, that's half the scene. That's a scene. But my process, I would say that would be my process. Is like I have a few hours. I try to map out something. I've done the classes, I've done the Robert McKee's, and I've tried to kind of go, okay, what's the best method? And I think every writer has to kind of find how their brain works. It's not something that you can just take out of a book and say, okay, I'm going to do this outline, and then there's a positive and negative charge of everything I do, and everything ends up this way, and what I'm going to draw a map, and I'm going to have all this, this map, this road map's going to get me from point A to point B. That works for a lot of people. I mean, there's just a lot of ways. I mean, filmmaking and filmmaking in general is just, there's so many paths and so many ways to do any of it that you have to kind of find the best one that works for you. Or else you're just kind of making yourself, you're just trying to do what everybody else does, or you're just trying to kind of fit into, another person's method. And I think that learning those methods are good, but every time I've learned a method, I never quite do it exactly that way. I just take that one bit that really works for me and say, okay, that part, that works for my brain, because my brain not everybody's brain works the same way. Focus, writing. I mean, sometimes I can start writing and I won't stop, and it'll be until 2 a.m. And sometimes, getting starting writing is impossible. But, it's a very, very hard task. And then in the end, you have a script, and you've lived with it for so long that you need somebody else to be like, this is really good, or say, this isn't really good, and then you have to go back and do it again, and you have to keep telling yourself, like, okay, this idea is good, and I just haven't worked hard enough to kind of get it to be good. And you have to be careful in some places, because sometimes you have to have somebody in your life who's going to tell you the truth. As a writer, if you don't have somebody that's going to tell you the truth, a lot of people want to say this is good. A lot of people want to go like, yeah, I liked it, and you really want to find the person that's going to kind of call you out and say, it's not, I didn't understand this, or I didn't get this, or I didn't do this, but there's just a lot of, I've been brought scripts, I've been handed scripts, and I've told people, truthfully, like, look, I don't think this is right. I don't think it's done. I think you need to keep going. And people have had to say that to me, and I definitely have a few people in my wheelhouse. I'm always like, will you read this? Will you read this? Because, there's other people who I have that have read things that love everything, and I'm like, I don't trust you. I don't trust that you are telling me the truth. You're not trying to hurt my feelings. I don't want that. I want you to hurt my feelings.
But on the flip side, though, then there's also people that's all they want to do. So how do you know that this person's really telling you the truth, not just sugarcoating something, but also not trying to stop you from something?
You don't. I mean, you don't. You have to trust your source. You have to know your source. Is that somebody who's going to do that? I'm trying to think if there's like there's never a silver bullet in any of this industry. So, you want somebody who has taste, who's your friend. And sometimes your friends don't have taste. So you just have to keep trying, because, you can say, and then sometimes that person that you're like, okay, this is the magical person who has taste and will tell me exactly if it's good or if it's bad. Now I have to get that person to actually read it, which is one of the hardest parts about being a writer, is that you send the script out to people and they'll go, oh yeah, I'm going to get to that this weekend. Like, oh, I have a plane and I'm going to do this on the plane. And, it's hard as a writer, it's hard as a director. I mean, we live in a world where people would rather kind of flip pictures through a book instead of reading an entire script. But you get people to read that script, and once they read it, you know when it's good because you can tell their response. You got to smell the bullshit sometimes. If someone says it's great and, they can't mention anything about the script, then they probably didn't read it. And if someone says, it's the same thing. You always kind of have to, like, if someone thinks something is really good, they're going to give you an example. They're going to give you something that's like the scene where the guy grabbed the knife and like hit it, and then she didn't know, and that's when you're like, okay, that person has read my script. And you'll be, I've been in so many meetings with financiers, and they're like, yeah, well, I don't know about this. And I was like, did you read the script? They're like, no, but I get it. I get the script. I get it. So that's what their producers always tell me, like, just don't don't get mad at them for not reading the script.
Do you think you're a better writer with chaos around you? You hear about like Charles Bukowski, and you can see from documentaries that his office was a mess, but he thrived in that environment. Or Philip K. Dick, he had a place that he called the Hovel, which was this dirty apartment, and he could do his best work there. You think you thrive better writing under chaos, or it's just sort of whenever it fits into your schedule or in the early morning, late at night?
No, I actually think I write better not in chaos, but I come up with idea. I mean, that's just my life. I love to like live in chaos. I just think that life, if you let life kind of keep happening and doing things, like that's where good ideas come from, or like you get to the bottom of like how people feel about things. Raw emotions come out, and chaotic things are happening. And I think that's where you find out about kind of character and kind of human nature, and just kind of fun ideas, like things that you're like, oh yeah, you can't write about that. But I need to actually physically write it down and to give it dialogue and to give it kind of structure. I need everything to kind of be quiet. I don't need a dirty place. I just need a quiet place where no one can kind of bop their way in, where I can move around, walk around a bit, or I need or I sit at a bar with like noise canceling headphones in, where I can't I can hear people's conversation, but not really, and a good stiff drink. But like sometimes that amount of chaos, like if I don't know anybody there, sometimes that really does do well. Just sitting there and kind of like not knowing who's around me and what it is, and like I can get in and start writing. But I don't think it's for me. It's not about like being in a special den or a little nook or just someplace that I can just go. Okay, this is my couch. This is my desk. I usually move back and forth between a desk or a couch, be it an office or my house or anything. And, just quiet. Nobody can walk in and stop it. I think it's the thoughts during the chaos that I like log and go, oh, that's how somebody would react. Like if you push somebody this way, they react this way. And that's what I think helps. It helps me as a writer.
When you're at the bar with the headphones on, do you have people trying to get your attention and, hey, buddy, what are you doing there? Or, how are you able to keep in your own little world there?
No, I just, you find some good wooden Irish bar that like not everybody's there to kind of meet or talk to anybody else. I mean, that's, I don't do that a lot, but I have done some great writing in those moments. But I found, and I do this as a director, that if you have over-the-ear headphones, people don't go up to you as much because they're these blatant things like, I don't want to listen to you. I'm doing something else. I did that when I was actually on the set of Nurse Jackie because I knew the crew so well. I need to do a shot list, and I would need to kind of plan my shots, and I'd always like to plan like specific shots out for scenes, and I'd go onto the set, and sometimes they'd be shooting a different episode, and a lot of the crew guys would come up and be like, "Hey man, like how you doing?" And I would be like, "Good." And then like once I put these big headphones on, I was just like there, and they would be like, and I like put some nice music on. I was like, "Oh, this is great. I could just nobody bothers me. They all think they'll realize I'm working, like I'm doing something here." So.
Did you sleep in your car or lock yourself in a room to get the feeling of being trapped at any point writing the script?
I mean, when I was writing, I locked myself in a small room mostly. No, you know what I did? It's funny. I owned the exact car that we used. And what I did do is I would sometimes just go, so, what can I use? I picked the car for a few different reasons. One, as I was doing my research and where it was supposed to take place in Norway, I saw this car as the Land Rover. I don't even know if they want me to say Land Rover, but I saw this car as a car that would be rented or would be used to kind of off-road or go into kind of, mountains and do a little bit of exploring. It also was a car that had so many windows. It's a wall of windows on every side and 2 sunroofs. And I thought that would be very advantageous for us as far as lighting and, just making the environment still feel claustrophobic, but kind of bring, the elements closer, feeling the snow right on top of us. And then also I had the car, so if we didn't raise enough money and I needed to just wreck my car, I would. But it was the perfect. I showed it to the DP and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is perfect. Look at all these windows." And it showed up when you Google image the area of Norway, like the car would show up places. So. But as I was writing, I would go into the car and I would sit in the driver's seat and I would be like, okay, so they're here and this is what happens and what can I do here? Like, what would I do? Where would I put things? Like, where would I do this? There's a moment in the film that we all not argued about. We had one producer who was always like, "Oh, I hate this scene," where, this also wasn't in the original script, but one of my first things reading and doing it was like, so where do you go to the bathroom in something like this? And then I was like in the car and I'm like, so I guess I would go back here and I would put it in here, and then where would I want to put this? Where would I want to put all of our bathroom waste? Like, I would want to separate that from somewhere else. Like, I'd probably want to put my food somewhere farther away from where my bathroom waste goes. So, did I sleep in the car overnight to just kind of feel what it's like? No, but I did go constantly down to my car and sit in the environment and write and come up with ideas, or like I'd go here and I would go there and I would, and pull on this and break this and, how can you get out this way? Or, so it was very helpful to kind of put myself in this space for scene work, for action in writing, in blocking, and definitely when it came to kind of shot listing for the film, the DP and I would go look at the car and take our phones out and be like, okay, like, can we get a camera here? And he'd be like, no, because your phone is a lot smaller than the camera, so we got, we have to do this. But it was great to have that. You can't always just put yourself in a setting and have it be as close to what really happens. But I have found that when writing other things, putting yourself, even like kind of taping out an area or saying, okay, I'm in a room that's only this big, so how do I imagine, like, what can I do in here, or what would my character do in this space?
And what was it about the year, was it 2002, that you felt you wanted to do it sort of, was it because maybe the technology wouldn't have been as strong, so they would have trouble contacting someone? I found that very interesting. I was actually intrigued by that. It was 2002?
It was 2002, and that goes back to the original concept of the movie was you would flash to these interviews of family members talking about what happened in the car, and that would take place 15 years later. There was a docu-style interview that would kind of cut in and out of the movie as they kind of reminisced about what happened without giving away kind of how everything unfolded. They'd kind of like learn, they would try to add a little backstory about the characters as the film progressed. But in the end, we ended up cutting all of those interviews And we had a lot of, there were amazing interviews, and the actors that came to do them, were amazing and did, such great performances that we wrestled with cutting them for 2 years. I would say it was a shorter time from, hey, we have this movie that we want to make, to making the movie, than editing and getting it out there. I mean, we edited many, many, many versions of this movie. And one of them on this kind of, the original script had these interviews with family members played by really great actors and actresses who gave their time. And the reason why they were cut was, the reason why it took so long to cut them is because they were so good. But it took you out of the car. It took you out of it gave you like this break in tension. And it gave the audience a relief in a way that felt counterintuitive to the film. I always said I wanted people to kind of watch this movie like this a little bit, like, and it kind of allowed you to go like, okay, all right, like this is, it released the audience from being stuck in this car with them. The way we shot the film, the camera always feels like it never leaves the confines of the car, except when there's there's exteriors where we go outside to just say like, look how bad it is out here. Look how bad it is. They don't want to, they shouldn't get out here because it's really bad. There's nowhere to go. Now go back in the car. But we were fairly mindful, except for like there was really one key moment where I purposefully wanted the camera to feel like it was leaving the car. But other than that, the camera never, the lens of the camera never left what the confines of the car could be. So it never broke the window frame. It never broke outside the car. So the audience always felt kind of trapped in there with it. And it's the kind of claustrophobia that really drives the film. So the 2002 is just kind of a product of the original script being based on these like two movies that were happening at the same time. One being the movie in the car, and one being the documentary that is not making it out there into the world.
And whose decision was that to cut the documentary part? Was it a group decision?
It was a group. I mean, yeah, it was a group decision. I mean, in the end, it's my decision. But I couldn't convince myself that it was better with it in. It was just one of these things that one of our actors has Vincent had this term. It's just like addition by subtraction. It really just changed the way you saw or experienced the film. And, once I saw it that way, I was, it was heartbreaking because it was something that I really, we really worked hard to do, and we really wrote a lot of, and, the cast was great and was shot beautifully, and it was like, there was no, it was just that, it took away from, the end product. So, there's that term, you have to kill your babies, and, that's one of them. That was one of the babies that we had to kill to get the movie to where it is.
Because you said you wanted the audience to really feel the intensity of being trapped.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always thought the audience would feel that way, regardless, but as, we kind of screened it, we tested it, we, kept going through the process, and there was just something inside of me going, it's not as good. Like, it's better to not have these interviews here. So it was just a kind of, where I explained to those actors that, like, it was like a bad breakup. It's like, it's not you, it's me. It was you were great, but it was like poor. It just didn't work out, and like,
You're too good for me.
yeah, you're so good. It's not me. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm so sorry. We all thought it was a really good idea, and then it just wasn't as good as this idea was, and in hindsight, we always were like, let's just do this part later. But kind of the machine of production, the kind of like, well, we have everything here, and like the money and the this and the camera and the people to do it, like they're all here. So like, if we just take these 2 days to do it, we should just get it all done, like instead of waiting and trying to do it again later. So.
What is it about high stakes in a scene that brings out character secrets?
High stakes push humans to react or act in a way that is more visceral, more instinct. It's a more instinctual reaction than it is than it is something that they would do like without those stakes. It's that pressure. It's that moment that you see a lot of times where the plane's about to go down and somebody confesses everything and then the plane stops, right? It's the feeling of terror, or this is the end, or I can't take it anymore. It almost pushes everything. It's like, when you can't take any more pressure, you have to relieve something. So sometimes when you add enough pressure, that's when a character, to me, kind of goes like, okay, well, I cheated on you once, or like, I did this, that those moments, and I think they're real moments. I think they are moments where, like, human nature, where you're put in a situation and you don't know if you're going to get out of it, but you want to get something off your chest, or you want to relieve some other pressure that's already bubbling up inside of you, and you just can't take any more of it. Something's got to give. You got to empty the pressure cooker from somewhere, and even if it's the secret from 6 years ago, or the reason why you're there in that situation, or whose fault you think it is, or who you're in love with, those sometimes help. They help kind of keeping that balloon from popping, or sometimes that balloon pops and everything comes out. I don't know if that makes complete sense, but
yeah, it does. Those are good analogies. I like those. Okay. You do have a quote from your lookbook for the film. The most key ingredient to survival is mental fortitude, refusing to accept that the situation is hopeless, refusing to accept that there is a strong possibility that you might die. Do you think you also apply this to filmmaking in a less dramatic way? Refusing to think. I realize that's a really strong analogy to use, but when it comes to getting a movie finished or a production started?
Yes. Filmmaking is mental fortitude. Refusing. Give me the quote one more time. I haven't read it in a while.
Sure. The most key ingredient to survival is mental fortitude, refusing to accept that the situation is hopeless, refusing to accept that there is a strong possibility that you might die.
Yeah, I mean, that quote was written for our survival expert. Yes, I would say that filmmaking is about mental fortitude as well. I would say that if you you set out to make a project and you're going to hit so many walls before you get, to any forward motion. And sometimes you'll get a good burst of air, and there was a great, it wasn't a meme, but it was a great something that somebody sent me. They were like, life of a filmmaker is like, oh, my movie's about to get made. Like, oh, it'll never get made. Oh, somebody is interested. Oh, nobody's interested anymore. Like, there's an actor that said that they'll do it. Like, oh, we don't have any money. And somebody might give us some money, and you have to go. It's a really hard business, and it's what I tell a lot of people. You don't do it because you really want to just be a filmmaker. You almost kind of have to get some story out there. I hate to sound cliche when you say like, you don't do it because you want to. You do it because you have to. But those people who have gone from their first film to their second film, or have said like, okay, I'm going to go make my second film, that you're going back into a slog of like really pushing and really trying to get your movie made, and that there's nothing really fun about the beginning parts of wrestling with getting the money, getting the right cast, doing the right thing, raising enough money. Is it enough money? Do we need more money? Can you do it for less money? Do you really need this? Can you, and making those right decisions. I mean, I know this because I'm doing it. I'm already doing it right now, and it's not the fun part of making your movie, but it's a part that needs to happen. So, to go back to that quote, like, you have to be mentally strong and confident in this business and anything. You have to be confident in your product and what you're going to put out into the world. And you can't, the quote is very dire. I mean, you may not die, but if you give up, you could easily just fall away in this business and fall into the background. You have to keep pushing your product, or keep pushing to get your stories out there.
Did you see Into the Wild?
I did, yeah.
Did you know that the school bus, I think in real life, was it last year? I think the Alaskan government had it towed away because so many people kept going back to that spot.
Yeah. No, I
to
didn't
try
know
to. What do you think it is that people are attracted to that whole story and this sort of, even though they know sort of the risk of the elements? I realize this is a bit off topic, but I just was curious to hear your take on that real quickly, and then we'll get back to last few questions.
I don't remember enough of that movie, I think. I think that a lot of people, you could say the same thing about the Sex and the City stoop in New York City. I mean, I think there's something that audiences, as an audience member, and you're not in the film business, and you get to revel in what these movies are and how special things are. As a filmmaker, I think you become jaded once you start being, even if you're not a filmmaker, but you work in the film industry, you slowly get to, it's like a blessing, it's like a curse, because you're behind the curtain and you see the process and you see what happens, and you don't get to live in that kind of, that awe of like, oh, that bus or that moment, or oh, I want to go on the same journey, and I want to be in the bus, or I want to go walk down that cobblestone street, and I want to go down the stoop, and you get to live the fantasy a little bit more, and I could see why people want to go out and fall in love with a piece of art and a film and go, I want to go and I want to do that and I want to see that and I want to see where this is and I want to feel what that's like. I find that's more common in kind of civilians of that are not in the film industry.
Do you think that's what drew most of us people that are in the film industry now, was just this extreme love for whatever set piece, whether it's the car from Back to the Future or the stairs from Joker or whatever, that we were so attracted to it that it made us want to be in the industry. But then being in it, then we see behind the curtain and...
Yeah, I mean, I think it is those iconic props or set pieces or times, periods. I remember growing up, everybody fell in love with the 60s because of certain movies, I think we all have that, that we have a nostalgia to something that gets us into filmmaking. I remember, like, when I did it I was using a VHS camcorder to make videos for like my 7th grade, middle school project, and I shot a video that was kind of like Wayne's World, and I put it in and I edited it with 2 VCRs and I did stop and record, and it wasn't because I was like, I really liked Wayne's World at the time, and I was like, I could do this on my couch and like just get like, this is cool and like it'll be fun. But watching people in the back, when I was in the back of the class, like watching people laugh and watching people like experience it and watching people be like, this is great. That's really what for me, that's what got me into wanting to do this. It was feeling their... wasn't like praise, but it was just more like a rush of being like, yeah, I want that reaction out of people. I want to see, when I go watch my film, I sit in the back. If I'm at a screening, I'm going to sit in the back of the movie. If I'm going to stay there anymore, I sit there and like to watch how people react to things, and that really gets me.
I would imagine that the temperature and the tight quarters and the schedule of filming, I know you said you did it like every 3 days, whatever, but that it was stressful for the actors, for you, for other people on set. How did you keep things going? How did you deal with the stress? Especially you're dealing with extreme cold, so that it was a very lifelike environment. How are you dealing with the stress of being on set?
I deal with stress different than other people. I have because I had a history of being an assistant director, I had this thing that when everything gets really stressful, that I kind of get really calm, because if I stress out, it's just going to start a panic a little bit more. I kind of Jedi mind trick, like just go like, okay, it's gonna be like, try to breathe and like look at the situation. And a lot of times when everybody's stressed and you're in a stressful situation, but as a director, you want to try to emote calmness or control or confidence. So there could be a time where I'm maybe stressing out on the inside, but I want to always try to kind of emote confidence and coolness. And sometimes that doesn't always work. Sometimes, I've, walked off and said, I just need a second. I was also smoking cigarettes at the time. That always helped. I've since stopped, but who knows what happens on my next production. That's you're a leader, and when people look at you as a director, they don't want to. I never wanted to look at a director who was screaming or let the pressure get to them. You know, you want your crew to think that you have things in control. You know, you're a captain of a ship, and if the captain panics, the whole crew panics. You know, or they just lose their confidence in you, and that goes for the cast too. You know, I think the first day we didn't shoot for 8 hours because there was a problem with the set, and I went in, and the set was a car, but like we were like fixing snow boxes to the outsides of the windows, and you know, it was a very low budget film, and everybody's working their hardest with the little bit of resources they had and the little bit of people they had. And I had to go into the actors and say, like, look, I told you that if it's not right, I'm not going to kind of do it. So that's what we're doing right now. We walked in this morning, this wasn't right, and we have to fix it, because I don't want to put you guys in a freezer and it looks stupid, and I don't want to make you look stupid, and I don't want to make me look stupid. So we wait, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we get it, it's fine," you know. But like I'm sure they appreciated me just, you know, I mean, it's just, you have to kind of own the situations and try not to let the stress get to you, because it doesn't really help. Like if you freak out, you can stress out, but like if you let everybody know, it's not going to make everything better. It's not going to, like, you know, no one's going to go like, well, the director's really stressing out, let's work harder, let's you know, get this done the right way. You know, they want, you know, everybody wants to follow like the Jean-Luc Picard who walks onto the deck and kind of knows exactly what to do and kind of asks his number one and number two, like, well, what do you think? What do you think? It's like, that's what you want, right? I mean, that's what every crew wants. They want a Jean-Luc Picard. So that would be my thing for directors, is always, you know, when you walk into a set, you got to be Jean-Luc Picard. And I'm not even a Star Trek person.
Do you have anything that you do on set that's peculiar or superstitious, but it works for you every time, whether it's your own production or someone else's?
No. I do a thing sometimes, and I learned this from a crew that I was with on a TV show called Royal Pains, where you pick somebody who's always like the kind of, not the angry person, but the person that the crew is always gonna pick on, like, you know, the UPM, or somebody who's like always kind of is kind of in the position of being the bad guy, even though they're not a bad guy. Like, and when they walk onto set saying it's their birthday and making everybody sing happy birthday, that's always a fun thing to just get people going. And then every time they walk on the set, you're like, hey, it's his birthday. You get everybody to sing happy birthday.
That's a good one.
But I don't think there's anything like peculiar. I sometimes like to play music, but I think a lot of people do that. I like to have fun with people. I like to make fun of people and like let people make fun of me. I like to kind of keep everything light. Unless something super serious is about to happen, then I'll try to get it quiet and keep it serious. No, I don't think there's anything super peculiar though that I do.
That's a great icebreaker. I don't know if that's what the term you would use, but if you know someone's going to sort of be the perceived bad person, to have fun and let someone see them in more of a human light.
Well, nothing makes anybody blush more than a group of people singing happy birthday at you, and there's really nowhere you can go, and like everyone kind of loves singing happy birthday, so it does like soften up the guy who's always like, or girl, you know, woman who's always like, you know, oh, here comes the person that's going to be like, what time are you going to be out? Like, when was your overtime? Like, what's this? You know, it's one of those thankless jobs, and you're like let's make them smile and let's all go, look, they're a person, they have birthdays.
When you're working with an actor, how much of a cheerleader are you?
I think cheerleader is the wrong term. I think cheerleader comes off as you're supporting in a way that is not, it doesn't feel necessary, or it feels, what's the word? I think that makes it sound trite or superficial when you say cheerleader. I would say that you have to support an actor. Actors, there's a great line, there's a great joke that someone said that, like, if actors had tails like dogs, they'd be wagging them all day. And that they want, that they need attention, or that you need to give them attention to kind of get what you want out of them. I don't think, I've worked with a lot of actors, and I feel like if you're just really being real with them, you get a lot of responses out of them. Without actors, this business would be nothing. I mean, we'd be shooting landscapes. So there's this amazing, and they're an amazing necessity that you have to kind of rally behind, which now sounds exactly like cheerleading, but you have to support them so that they feel comfortable to pretend to be somebody else, or so that they feel comfortable to push themselves to cry in front of strangers, to have sex or simulate sex in front of strangers, with strangers. I mean, you have to, it's not about cheerleading, it's just about making them feel safe to do their art, or to really move around the world you're creating as the character that you guys have developed. I have really great relationships with a lot of actors, and I always try to tell them that, look, I'm going to just try to put the camera in the right spot and not get in your way so that you can do what you need to do. And half of that, and I say that to them so that they feel, okay, great, this guy's just not going to put the camera right in my face and I have to do everything around wherever he wants to put the camera. But it's kind of more of a metaphor, because sometimes I do go like, okay, look, now I need you to do this because I got to put the camera right here. But it's just more to be like, look, if all I do is put the camera in the spot that's out of your way, and you do what you need to do, that to me is going to bring us the best story. And it's just more about developing the relationship of, this is great, that's good. I think we went too far there. I don't think anybody wants to just be cheered on the whole time. I think, it's like I said about, it's like I was talking about someone reading your script. Actors can smell bullshit too. You have to smell bullshit in this business. Is my script good? Yes, it's good. Was that take good? That take was great. I mean, they want a real note too. And sometimes you'll go up to an actor and they'll be like, let me just do that again. And you go like, yeah, go ahead. Like, don't just make, everything can't be amazing, or else why are you still doing it? Like, why are you still doing this take if everything's amazing? And I've seen people go like, that was great, but it was like, well, you keep saying it's great, so what do I need to do differently? And it's like, just be real with people and talk to them, and say what's good, but tell them what's bad. I mean, people want to know what's bad, but to cheer, I don't think you want to just cheer on an actor the whole time. I think you want to motivate and give them this, protect the space that they're in, so that they can deliver what you need them to deliver.
So you don't want to be the cheerleader or the greeter, for lack of a better word, but then how much are you the critic? And how do you play that role with an actor?
I think you want to, how much you want to be the critic. I mean, you have to be delicate with that too. You can't be, you can't totally criticize. I almost want to say, this is probably a bad analogy, but I think you more want to be a coach. That you want to try to motivate and cheer them on, and then when they screw something up, you want to be like, no, that's not what we need. We can't go. If we go that way, then this is what's going to happen. And what does your character do after that? Like, if you cry now, what are you going to do later? You know, like, this is not the time to do that. Like, what you did before, we got to stay in that moment. We got to stay there, and you got to move, and reinforce and, like, push forward, but not, coaches criticize all the time, but do they do it, constantly? Not a good one. So, it's not critiquing, it's just going, I guess it's just finding that balance of taste that you need to, that you also, like you and the actors are always kind of work out before. Like, how is this character supposed to be? What is it supposed to do? I mean, there's a lot in prep that you should be doing with your actors to try to get them to understand a character the way you understand it. Because they are going to come in with their own understanding of that character. And you want to make sure that in prep, those things are the same. Because or else you're just trying to guide your actor to what is in your brain. And your actor is always trying to show you something that's in his. And sometimes those both can be great. I mean, I know that sometimes I've seen something and an actor has shown me something that has been so much better. And that you have to be open to kind of them really improving on what you always thought it would be, or what you envisioned. And then sometimes you have to kind of delicately, like, breadcrumb them back into a place that you want them to be. Like, there's usually a middle ground that you'll find. And that's why it's kind of, that's kind of what makes it so fun working with actors. There's such a craft to what they do, and good actors really put a lot of work in prep and in their character and to why things are done, in their choices that are being made.
How do you feel about releasing your film Centigrade during a pandemic? Was this the original plan? Did you already know it would be released during this time? Or this is a surprise to you?
Our release, no, we knew the release, but we didn't know about the pandemic yet. So, it's funny because because of the nature of the film, and we kind of asked, should we be pushing our release date up? Like, are we ever going to get into a theater at all? Like, should we just be trying to get it out, like, while everybody's trapped inside their houses? Should they be watching a movie about being trapped inside of a car? So, that wasn't something that really made much sense. We kind of just kept with the same release date. But like, how do I feel about it? I had one dream when it came to, like, when I forget when, it was either editing or something. And I said, the best premiere for this movie would be in a drive-in movie theater in the winter. And about 10 minutes into the movie, we have, like, special effects guys make it snow on top of everybody in the drive-in. Really, it just freak everybody out. And of course, I said this about 2 years ago, and they're, like, oh, that would be cool. And we're like, yeah, we'll like all eat like snow cones and stuff like that, and we'll, that would be a fun like premiere event. And I'm getting half of that because we are going to premiere at a drive-in theater where all, the cast and crew hasn't really seen it together. The crew's never seen it. And it's been 2 years. And we're going to go up to a drive-in theater in New York and watch it in our cars. And I think it's one of these films that I think would be a really great date movie because you kind of pick a side or argue or why you can't do this. Like, whose fault is it? They should have done this. I would have done this. It also, like, there used to be these trailers that they used to do in like the late 90s where you would see people outside the theater, like they'd show you a bit of the movie, and then you would see like families or couples being like, he almost dropped his popcorn, or like, she was so scared, and like, man, it was awesome. And I was like, this would be like, if we brought back that kind of trailer, that kind of like, talking to the people right outside the theater version, like that also was something that I was like, ooh, that would be a cool version of this film. But having it released in a pandemic, I think everybody, I'm just very happy that it's being released and that it didn't get buried in a pandemic and it wasn't, put off to the side. It's been something that a lot of people have worked very hard on for a couple of years, and I'm glad to everybody else be able to see it. I'm glad that my family in Ireland and my family in different parts of the country will be able to watch it on VOD, or anybody that can make it to a drive-in theater. I think it'll be a fantastic little experience to feel stuck inside your car as you ration your Diet Cokes and popcorn through it. So we're looking forward to August 28th.